Hi, Greg Goebel here. I wanted to do another piano tutorial video. Today I want to talk about diminished chords and diminished scales and how you can use diminished scales to improvise over diminished chords. So, what is a diminished chord first of all? If we start out with a C major 7 chord like this, to make this a diminished 7 chord, we flat the 3rd, we flat the 5th, and then we double flat the 7th. So that's our diminished chord. Now, when I first encountered diminished chords, when I was learning how to play jazz piano, I didn't really know what to do other than just play chord tones when I was soloing. Now, those notes, they work with a chord, obviously, but it doesn't really give you much stuff to do. So, here's a scale that fits with a diminished chord. It's called a diminished scale. It's also called an octatonic scale because it's got 8 notes in it. Also called a whole half diminished scale. So here's how you make it. It's pretty easy. So if you start on the root of the chord, C, you start off by going up a whole step, then you go up a half step, then you keep alternating. So whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half. And that's our diminished scale. So what's nice about this is that there's no like clunker notes or avoid notes in the scale. All those notes of the scale are going to sound good, depending on context, of course, but with the diminished chord in the left hand. So, so on that little line at the end there, I was resolving some of my notes on notes that were not chord tones of the diminished chord, and it sounded good. So here's another way to approach this scale. If you take the chord tones of your diminished chord right there, and then you overlay another diminished chord a whole step above that, those are all the notes of your diminished scale. That's kind of interesting. This can give you some pretty cool sounding voicings as well. It can be really crunchy and clustery like that, but it'd give you a cooler voicing than playing that, for instance, or just breaking up some of the notes into a voicing like that. So that's one way that you can use a diminished scale, is obviously on a diminished chord. Now, another cool way you can use it is on a dominant 7 chord. So if we take our diminished scale, but this time we start it with a half step instead of a whole step, we get this. So half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. That works really well over a C dominant 7 chord. We get root, flat 9, sharp 9, 3rd, sharp 11, 5th, 13, flat 7, and up to the root. So if you saw a chord symbol that said C13, flat 9, sharp 11, man, that is the scale that you're going to want to use. That's going to be a great one. So, this can also help with voicings as well, because this scale is also a combination of 2 diminished chords. It's a C diminished chord, but then a half step up diminished chord as well, a D flat diminished chord. And that gives you all the notes of that scale. Now you could also make a voicing with this too. Let's say I got my root down here. Let's say I play my D flat diminished, or E diminished, however you want to look at it, and then another diminished chord up here that encompasses all the notes of the scale. Very cool sounding, some altered dominant kind of sound. So in the context of a 2-5-1, I might have G minor 7, going to C, resolving back to F major. So, 2 different ways you can use this diminished scale. One, for a diminished chord, starting off with the whole step, and then 2 with the dominant 7 chord, starting off with the half step. Cool. So, I know I went really fast through this, so if you guys have any questions, please just leave them in the comments below. But try it out and experiment, and it might get you out of a rut of just feeling like you can only play chord tones of a diminished 7 chord.